Hey guys, welcome back to the Kirk Miller Podcast. On today's episode, I have a fantastic human being who I only met, what was it, maybe 3-4 months ago, Stefan?
Maybe a little longer than
Maybe a
that.
bit
Yeah.
longer. I mean, time flies, right?
Time flies. I think beginning of the year. Yeah.
Yeah. But beginning of the year, it was one of my great friends, Katie Harvey. She said, "There's someone in Dubai I think you ought to meet, you ought to connect with." He also has a fantastic podcast himself, which we will talk about as the episode progresses. But yeah, when I went on Stefan's podcast, um, for me, you meet a lot of people who have different qualities. But for me, one of the qualities that Stefan has, and is one of his superpowers, is just his ability to install warmth, create certainty in people effortlessly. I think your wisdom, your experience across so many different things, as we'll unpack today, is way beyond your years. I just asked him just to remind me, how old are you? And he said 33. But I just your composure and everything you do, Stefan, is very inspirational. Even though I'm 7 years older than you, so there's so many different things I want to unpack today with Stefan. He's a monumental entrepreneur. He's an ex-professional tennis player, a sport that I was absolutely horrendous with. So anyone who's gone anywhere near up the ladder in tennis, you've certainly got some minerals. And I know you are someone who continually pushes himself and likes to become. I think your favorite. What's your little saying? Is it uncommon? You don't.
Uncommon. It's actually tattooed on my arm as well.
He has. If you're listening to this, he's actually got uncommon on his left forearm, and I want to pick some holes in that a little bit on why that's so important. But look, simply put, the people that I try and bring onto this podcast are people who, yes, they're high performers, savages in their own right, but they have a lot of value to share. And all the people that I'm connected to, that I really love talking to, spending time with, they also have an unwavering passion to help make people better. The people they love, the people they work with, anyone they're connected to, and you're certainly that person, Stefan. So I know you're a very, very busy man. So thank you so much, and welcome to the Kirk Miller Podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's a real pleasure, and also thanks again for being online. Right, I think that's really where we got to know each other and became friends. And we've known each other for a few months, but it feels like I know you much better than I should at this point.
Yeah. But I think for me, when you feel like that it comes down to what you both value, and I think vibe attracts your tribe. And when you are on this earth and you're trying to do good things and you're trying to add value and make a difference, then I really believe the universe has a weird kind of way of bringing the right people, the right partners,
and
the right clients. 100%. And that's why I'm so grateful to have you on the podcast. But just give the listeners who maybe don't know you a little bit of a brief insight into who you are, what you do, and where your story started, Stefan.
Cool. Yeah, I'll jump in. Let's see where I should start. So I grew up in Holland.
Mm-hmm. Whereabouts in Holland?
It's a place called Utrecht. It's
I always really Utrecht, with the football teams.
Yeah. That's how I know all the cities in Europe because of football.
It's always a soccer team or a football team.
Yeah. I know all the villages in Spain because of their football teams.
Yeah.
So I grew up there until the age of 14.
Mm-hmm.
14, moved to Dubai. Was in Dubai until the age of 18. Spent 5 years in the US.
Whereabouts in the US?
New York City.
Okay.
And then came back.
That was a little bit different to Utrecht then.
Very different. Also very different to Dubai. And then came back here in Dubai, and I've been here ever since. So grew up very active. Started playing football and tennis at the age of 5. Yeah. In Holland, similar to the UK, football's like a religion. It's something that you have to play. It's not something you choose to play.
Oh, is it that obsessive?
Yeah. As soon as you turn a certain age and you can walk and you can have a little bit of coordination, you're put on the football field. So started both of those things. Excelled at both, but was particularly good at tennis.
Yeah. When did you realize you were better at tennis?
I think like age of 9.
Yeah, and what do you think that was? Like genetics? Just you enjoyed it more?
I think it was just passion. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was just passion, like love of the game. I definitely started playing it a lot more than football voluntarily. Like I would go to the tennis court, hit against the wall for hours. And I think my parents picked up on that, and they were like, listen, why don't you choose between the two so you can really focus on one, which was at the age of 12.
Yeah.
And then pick tennis.
Yeah.
And honestly, that stayed with me for a very long time, progressed quite quickly. So even when I went to college, played college tennis, Division 1, played on not the tour necessarily, like played challengers, which is at the professional level.
Yeah.
Like I told you, got my ass handed to me. You see the difference when you play against the top players. And not that it demotivated me, but it was definitely a reality check. So at the age of 23, I was like, okay, cool. Like now it's time to focus on work, focus on business, focus on like what can you do with the skills that you learn as an athlete? What can you do with the skills you learned in college, which was marketing for me.
Yeah.
So at the age of 23, I started working at Nike here in Dubai.
Yeah.
Went through the whole system, did marketing, did brand management, did all of that stuff.
What was it like? What was it like working at Nike?
It was ideal.
What did you learn most?
It was ideal. My first job there was working in football. It was called Team Sports Executive. So you're basically working with all the national teams. You're working with all the football clubs in the region, all the different athletes. And the beautiful thing about it was you had to learn everything. So like you had to learn legal, you had to learn accounting, you had to learn marketing, you had to learn logistics because of the nature of that role. And I think that really gave me clarity on like what I really wanted to focus on, because you got exposed to all these different things. So it wasn't too narrow. And that's when I was like, okay, cool, brand marketing. That's what I want to do.
So when you first started at Nike, did you know what you wanted to do, or did you sort of fall into that?
Fall into it.
Yeah.
Fall into it. Like I got a
and
call.
That was on the back of after playing tennis
Yeah.
professionally. During your tennis years, because I think you said you said you stopped playing at 23. Did you have any part-time jobs, or what was your lifestyle outside of tennis around that, or was it literally?
I was in college, right? So
Okay.
like it was college. It was literally like 6 a.m. fitness classes, practice for 3-4 hours, homework, class, go to sleep, repeat, tournaments on the weekends. Like that was kind of life.
Yeah. How many hours a week was tennis taking up at that point?
Jeez. I mean, it was about 20 hours a week of practice and fitness.
Yeah.
And then probably another 6 hours on the weekend of tournaments and whatever else. Yeah, it was brutal. It was brutal. Yeah. And that's why, like, even today, and we'll get into this, but like things like sacrifice come so easy to me. Yeah. Right? Things like saying no to temptations come so natural to me because I grew up doing it.
Yeah. What? Because of all the years of the professionalism and the discipline from tennis.
Yeah.
Yeah. What? How? Because I know obviously now entrepreneur and business is such a strong passion of yours. Whilst you were studying, growing up in school and college, did you ever feel like that you were going to go deeper into business at that point, or was that literally you were just studying because you had to, and tennis was always your thing? And
so I was studying because I had to.
Okay.
Like college was because, so I'm half Indian, half Dutch.
Yeah. You got a big family?
Big family.
Yeah.
Obviously, to an Indian mom, education is very important. Security is very important.
Yes.
No real choice there, right? Like, and also I didn't go against it. Like for me, it was like, cool, like I'm going to do this. I'm going to go to college. I'm going to play tennis there. But I was very like idea driven. I was very creative. I always had ideas for businesses that I wanted to explore.
When did you realize you were quite idea and creative focused?
Like 19, 20.
And why?
Like early on. Like early on, I would go to classes, and like certain classes would plant a seed for a business. I would work on that idea a little bit, and then I would just give it up. Like I didn't really know how to take it from that starting point to like then take it through to a business.
Yeah.
And there was just no time really to do it. Like I was doing internships, I was doing classes, I was playing tennis. It was all quite intense, right? It was like 16-hour, 17-hour days consistently.
Yeah. So you probably didn't have the time to go from like, here's an idea and I'm going to turn that into a business, just because of the amount of volume of tennis you were doing.
Exactly.
You know. So how long were you at Nike for?
6 years.
6 years.
6 years.
And one thing I know, we spoke about this privately, and I think a lot of people who've done sport will maybe relate to this struggle. You go from playing professional tennis to the age of 23, then you're into a company like Nike. How did that affect your attitude to training, looking after yourself? Because I know a hell of a lot of people have struggled, and I think as I shared on your podcast, even though I didn't necessarily struggle to stay in shape when I left football, I really, really, really struggled with the identity shift and my weekend habits. And it was only through sheer obsession that the only area of my life I was getting certainty around the job that I didn't like was obviously training and deprivation in calories and stuff that I've probably managed to stay in shape. Whereas a lot of people I play football with, they really, really struggled and put on weight quickly, just
100%.
didn't have direction. Like, how did that affect you?
Oof.
Because I think this will relate to a lot of people who, like, for example, Stefan, a lot of people that we take on in Built to Last, a lot of them have played sport previously. Then they go into business, and then you go, right, you might have a partner, kids, family, other people to think about. And then you put yourself last. But that's even worse when you've gone from this super focused, super structured dynamic of playing sport at a decent level. How did that affect you?
So I'll tell you the story behind this, because this will interest you and hopefully your listeners as well. As soon as I started working at Nike, I probably didn't play tennis for like the entire time I was there, right? So that was one. Two is, because it was Nike, fitness was still at the forefront, right? Like there was almost an expectation from the brand that like you should be fit, you should be working out, like you're in sport, right? Like you're working with footballers, you're working with runners, you're working with like people in the fitness industry. So fitness didn't really suffer. Like I still worked out 4 or 5 times a week, but I partied so hard. Like I would party during the week, I would party in the weekends, I would party every single time I got a chance. You know how it is, right? 23-year-old guy, girls, alcohol, friends, etc. You're living in Dubai, you're finally making some money. So all these things definitely came together. But there was a huge turning point for me, I think like in year 5 at Nike or year 4 at Nike, at the age of 27. At the age of 27, I was working at Nike. I was working on a startup on the side just as a business plan at that point.
What was that startup, or was that not important?
Not important.
Okay.
Yeah. Didn't come to fruition at the end. And I was doing my master's. So
a master's in marketing.
My executive MBA.
Okay.
So all-encompassing business degree.
Yeah.
And so I was doing all 3 things at once. Now again, back to 16-hour days, 17-hour days. And the way that day was structured was like I would go to work, I would come home, I would work on the startup, I would have dinner, and then I would study, right? And this was like, for me, again, the sacrifice thing, the work ethic thing, not an issue. The hardest thing for me was like switching attention between these 3 things, right? Like, because you like to give one thing your all, and then you like to give the other thing your all, and etc. Whenever things got difficult for me, I would watch YouTube. Like immediately, if I was like distracted or whatever else, I would watch Gary Vee on YouTube, let him yell at me for a little bit, saying like, get your shit together, like make sure you can do it, etc. And I'd be like, okay, cool. Like I'm back. This time around, I watched a video by Jay Shetty. I don't know if that rings a bell.
Of course.
Yeah. So Jay Shetty was on an episode with Tom Bilyeu, Impact Theory.
I know exactly. Yeah, great guys. Yeah.
I think this was like way back in the day when they both started, and Jay was talking about why do we do what we do, right? I took that question, which is a very simple question. Why do you do what you do, right? Like, and applied it to everything in my life. So why do I do what I do, live where I live, like eat what I eat, drive what I drive, hang out with who I hang out with, wear what I wear, etc., etc., etc. Like questioning everything, right? Because we never really take the time to reflect. And when I started going through this reflection process, I was like, why am I doing the MBA? Right? Is it because my mom's Indian, education's important, security, make her proud, make my parents proud? Is it because of status? Is it because of network? Is it because you genuinely want to learn? There's no wrong answer, but like, why are you doing it? Same with the startup, same with Nike, same with everything. And the next morning, I literally was up till 3 a.m. like writing out all the answers. The next morning, I quit my MBA. The next morning, I quit working on the startup, and I continued at Nike. Right, I loved working at
Nike. And it was because of the answers.
It was
that
because
you wrote
of the answers.
At 3 a.m. to the
exactly.
Yeah,
and the thing is, like, when something's super clear, where it's like, I really don't need time to like sleep on this decision. I really don't need time to like reflect even further. I was like, it's just black and white. like this binary. It's a yes or it's a no. And had a conversation with my parents. I was like, listen, guys, I'm quitting the MBA. They were like, do whatever makes you happy.
And how did your mother react?
They were fine.
Okay.
Yeah, they were fine. The thing is, like, we think our parents are more strict sometimes than they actually are. Like, they like, if they are good parents, they prioritize your happiness over anything else. So if like that makes you happy and that makes you fulfilled, like by all means go and do it. So I made these decisions, and then like 2-3 months later, I stumbled upon a silent retreat. And I've challenged myself physically at this point my entire life, right? Like whether it was in tennis, whether it was in football, I had run a marathon at that point. But I was like, I've never challenged myself just mentally, right? Like this looks like a real cool mental challenge. So I did it. 10 days of silence in Nepal in a Buddhist monastery, living with 200 Buddhist monks.
10 days.
10 days, no speaking, 6 hours of meditation a day, 6 hours of teachings a day, talking about Buddhism. No phone, no Wi-Fi, no coffee. You eat whatever they give you to eat. Small little room, only a cold shower. And
did you do that by yourself?
Did it by myself. Yeah.
Wow.
Did it by myself. I mean, there were a lot of other people doing it at the same time, but like from my group and from my community, I was the only one who flew over and did it. And it was the most like revolutionary thing that's ever happened in my life, right? Because I'll give you 2 quick lessons. One was we never really sit with our thoughts for an extended amount of time, right? We're very quick to distract ourselves with our phones, with Netflix, with conversations, with people, with whatever it may be. Like the ability to sit down with your eyes closed for 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, and not having that distraction at any point for 10 days is something we will never put ourselves through unless we have to, right? Or unless like the environment puts us in that situation. In Dubai, you don't have that privilege, right? We have shit to do. Like we can't just switch off. So you deal with all the hard things and all the difficult thoughts that you've never dealt with before, right? It could be
all of these things are coming in your head
Yeah.
in that space of silence, but you have to think about something.
You have to think about something, right? And like the longer time goes on, the deeper those suppressed feelings from the past start bubbling up and saying, hey, remember me? Like things that you haven't thought about or things you don't remember from when you were 10 years old, from when you're 15, 20, etc., etc. And so you have time to start like compartmentalizing these things. You have time to start kind of analyzing them and seeing how serious is it? Like, what does it mean? How do I get over this? Do I need to get over it? Is it part of me, etc.? That's something that was very important for me to go through because it was basically like it's almost like a detox, right? Like you go there and you just like, you cleanse your brain. But
more of an emotional and mental detox as opposed to
100%.
People go on these detox retreats and I'm going to have juices for
those are week. I mean, to each his own. For me, I don't really believe in that part. I think it's a good reset, but like it's about what you do when you come back.
1,000,000%.
Right? And it's the same with this. Like I did this and there was so much stuff that I learned about like, not expecting anything from everyone, karma, attachment. There's so many different things that like...
What as a result of being in that 10 days of silence? Space, yeah, can you tell me more about that? Because I'm fascinated by that.
So you get lectured by Buddhist monks. So Buddhist monks will come and speak to you about Buddhist principles that you can apply to your life. So it's not very religious. Like it's more like, in order to live a good life, you need to look at X, Y, and Z. Mm-hmm. So for instance, they'll speak about attachment. Attachment means if everything's taken away from you, are you okay? Right? Like if your phone is taken away from you, if this apartment's taken away from you, if your podcast, if your wealth, your car, your house, whatever, if it's taken away from you, who are you? Right? Because that's the person that you are. It's not who you are when you have all these things. It's who you are when you have nothing. So like putting yourself in that situation and accepting it, right? Accepting that, Kirk, if your phone breaks today and you can't call someone, are you going to freak out? Or are you going to be like, that's it?
Interesting you should say that. And this is great learning for me listening to this. I went back to, sorry to interrupt there, Stefan, but this is fascinating. This is why I'd love you to expand on this. I went back to London a couple of weeks ago. I'm so used to Dubai where you can pretty much leave your phone, your wallet in
I know where this is going.
In a shopping mall, right? you can totally relax here because you know it's safe, the security, etc. I've been off the plane for 2 hours. I had a 2-hour meeting in a 5-star hotel in London. I then went to the bathroom for 1 minute. I came back. My suitcase is gone. I thought surely the concierge have just put it away, but it'd been stolen. Like, that had my whole belongings, other than my passport, my wallet, and my computer. So it's just very pivotal that you said that, because don't get me wrong, I didn't explode or anything like that, but of course it affected you,
which is okay.
It is,
which is okay. I think it's more about the extent of how long and how deeply does it affect you.
Yes,
because you can sulk about this for days.
Yeah,
or you can become solution oriented and you can say, cool, this happened.
Yeah.
How do I get a new passport? How do I do that? Like, that's kind of like where I'm going with it.
Yeah.
Because it's okay to, and we get a bit deeper into this, because attachment is not just things, it's also people, right? Like, you're attached to your family, you're attached to your significant other, right? If that girlfriend breaks up with you, then what? It's okay to feel bad about it, right? But it's not okay to continuously feel bad about it, right? Like, you need to find healthy and effective ways to move on. And it's the same with death, right? Like, it's the same with death in families. Like, if, God forbid, a loved one passes away, it's okay to mourn, but you gotta make room, and you gotta continue to process and move on. So I think it was one of the important things that I learned was attachment.
What did they guide you or advise you on how to deal with that?
So we did meditations on it. So all the meditations were guided. So
someone is
basically getting you into a certain state. Someone is talking you through different steps. And again, every meditation would have a different purpose. We meditated on death. The most powerful meditation I've ever done in my life was a meditation on death.
Wow.
I'll quickly tell you about it. So
please take your time. This is unique. I've never had anyone speak about this type of stuff. So please, I think everyone needs to hear this, because I think there's a lot of entrepreneurs, business owners, just people who are looking, how can I be more happy? How can I be happier? How can I keep my emotions in check more? How can I not be triggered by stuff that is triggering me longer than I want it to trigger me?
Yeah.
So this is fascinating.
So, and death is a tricky one, right? Like, when you ask someone, like, would you be okay if you died today, right? Like, would you be okay, but like, if you died today, would you be at peace with it, right? And I think it's a very important question for everyone to address. For me, at that point going in, I wasn't, right? Ambitious as hell. I was like, I have way too much shit that I want to accomplish.
Yeah.
I have way too many people in my life that I love.
Yeah.
For me to call it a day today. Then I went into this meditation, 6 a.m., mind you. Like, 6 a.m. we walk into this temple, and they were like, today we're going to meditate on death. And I was like, it's way too early for that.
And what age are you at this point?
I was 25 or 26.
25 or 26.
Yeah,
Stefan, if someone would have told me that 25 or 26, I wouldn't be in one ear out the other.
Yeah. No, it was a tough one. But so we sit down, and they first explain to us, like, the Buddhist principles of death, right? They're very straightforward. There's kind of what happens to your body, and there's what happens to your mind. So what happens to your body is, you turn cold, your tongue turns a different color, whatever, the temperature of your body, etc. And then what happens to your soul and what happens to your mind. And so the meditation was basically going through this process, right? Like, they were like, okay, close your eyes. We get into a state of, I don't know, like the first 20 minutes, they kind of get you into a focused state, and it's called focused meditation. And then they said, today's the day that you're going to die. And so you're in this state, and they take you through the steps. They were like, your body's turning cold. This is what's happening to your tongue and your lips and your this and your that. And they were like, you're surrounded by your loved ones in a hospital bed. You're very old. You've lived a great life. But today's the day you're going to die. So I'm envisioning myself on a hospital bed, whatever, 85 years old, surrounded by my loved ones. All my loved ones are still the same age, right? Because like, you can't envision everyone growing up. My parents are still there. And they were like, okay, now this is what's happening to your body. This is what's happening to your soul. And then they started asking like very profound questions. So the first question was, so what do you regret? And I was like immediately like, shit, you know, like everyone talks about, I don't have regrets in life. I'm like, you 100% have things that you wish you would have done differently.
Million %.
Right. And so I started writing down names of people that I had to apologize to when I got out of this, right? Like things that I did wrong to friends, to family, to ex-girlfriends, whatever it may be. Step one. Second question was, what would you have done differently? Right? Now, whether it was in that situation with those respective people or generally in life, would you have chosen different directions? And then the last question was, is it too late? Like to do that? And so I get out of this and I'm just like writing, because you always can't speak. I'm like aggressively writing down thoughts, names, people, da, da, da. And as soon as I got out of that retreat, and I'll go back to retreat in a second, but as soon as I got out of that retreat, I started calling up my friends and people and like apologizing. And the people that you would call were like, yo, that was totally fine, man. Like, don't worry about it. Like, that's really not a big deal. Mm-hmm. But I'm like, for me, it was a big deal, right? Like,
why?
I don't know. Like, I'll give you a good example. One of my best friends, his father passed away at, when we were like 21 years old. And I grew up with this guy. And I felt that I wasn't there enough for him, right? During that period, for whatever reason. Maybe my discomfort with death or whatever it may be. I called him at the age of 25, 26. And I was like, listen, bro, I'm so sorry. This is how I feel. He was like, you were there enough for me. But like, for whatever reason, I felt like I wasn't. And so I went down this list and started apologizing to people. So like, that was a super powerful meditation. And again, like, we wouldn't sit here in this apartment and do a meditation on death, right? I feel like for me, it had to be in an environment like that in order to have the most impact.
It makes you do it.
It makes you do it.
Makes you do
you have no choice.
It makes you do it. But you know, one of the big takeaways from that, Stefan, is it makes you fast forward to the end of your life, because so often when you look back on who you are now, you're going to make better decisions. Like one of the most powerful questions I took from obviously one of the courses I did with Brendan Bouchard. I might have said this to you in previous months. He has a question. Whenever you're at a sticky point in your life, what would your best future self say in this situation? I've vamped it up a little bit with clients with certain questions, if it's to do with a food decision, training decision, or just a decision you're not sure about what to do. What would your best future self say, do, or choose in this situation? Because when you fast forward to that 85, 90, 100-year-old and look back, you're far more likely to make a decision that is aligned to your heart and with more authenticity and less reactive. And
you could reverse it. I think you're doing it one way, which is like kind of putting yourself in the present moment, but looking forward. You could also put yourself in like the shoes of that 85, 90-year-old and say, what does a life well lived look like for you?
Amazing.
Right? Like, and then look back. But you can already, like now, I can already envision that, right? What does life well lived look like for you? Like, does it evolve around working 18 hours a day? Maybe, maybe not, right? Like, and again, it's very personal, but like, how often do people reflect on this?
They don't.
Never.
They just do things for the sake of doing it.
And you just go through the motions, right?
Yeah.
I feel like reflection is such an important thing. And it's one of the skills that I picked up at that retreat was like, okay, cool, meditate every day, right? Even if it's 10 minutes. Like use 10 minutes to reflect on the day or to start your day in silence, right? Like otherwise you never make time to address your thoughts. Yeah. You never make time to do it. You're just constantly distracted. You're constantly on the go. And then you wonder why you can't fall asleep. You wonder why you're anxious. You wonder why your mind is racing at night. It's because you haven't took time to address your thoughts. Yeah. It's very simple. So that was one main takeaway. Related to that was expectation. So you and I are quite similar in the sense that we expect a lot from the people around us, right? And that's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It's a good thing because we have a standard. So there's a difference between like having a standard and having expectations. A standard is just saying, I'm not going to do anything that's not world class, right? Like that's my motto. Like if I do, whether it's a podcast, my business, like anything athletic related, it's got to be world class or I'm not going to do it.
I get it.
Yeah. But then there's also expectation, right? That there's an expectation from me to make sure that like, I expect you to be on time. I expect you to come up with this. I expect you to come up with that. that has a tendency to then let you down. That has the tendency to then get us angry, sad, whatever other negative emotion there's in there. So I've learned to keep the standards, but reduce the expectation, right? I don't know if that makes...
on others, basically.
On others.
Yeah, I get it.
Not on myself.
I get it. Because I totally agree.
Yeah.
And I can be guilty of that sometimes too. It's when you have obscene standards in given areas, it can be very easy to force your beliefs and your way of thinking on other people. And sometimes it's not like this person necessarily doesn't have high standards. It's just in the things that you have really, really high standards, they don't value that area that you think have high standards in as much, but they might in other areas.
Yeah. And as a business owner, like, you know this, you also sometimes have to work around like the ideal way of working for that person, right? Like your way might not be the way, but is there another way to extract maximum value out of them while, you know, keeping the standards high? So for me, I started learning to do that a bit more efficiently.
Yeah.
I don't expect anything from anyone. Simple. And it takes a lot of stress off, right? Like it takes a lot of stress off when you have no expectations.
So how do you find the fine line there? If you don't expect anything of other people, if you are hiring someone or trying to persuade someone in some way, what do? You
control the controllables, right? So from Kirk's side, there's only so much that you can do.
Yeah.
Right. Doesn't mean you never follow up. It doesn't mean that you don't push people. It doesn't mean that, but like you do what you can do. And if they don't deliver, you're not crushed, right? It's a sign like, okay, you don't deliver this one time, you don't deliver the second time, you're out. Next, right? Go through the same process. So I always look at like, okay, there's this project that we have. What can I control in this project to get it from A to Z? And then, things just start. I don't know. The no expectation thing is something that really just takes a huge load off your shoulders.
Yeah. Would you say that protects your mental bandwidth now massively?
100%.
Yeah. Because often, especially in business, and I know there'll be so many business owners and stuff listening to this, if you were to probably ask them cold, honestly, what stresses you out most? Team.
Yeah.
Customers.
Yeah. Chasing payments, right?
Yes.
Like if I have to chase a payment, there's only so much I can do, right? And I will do everything within my power to get it on time, right? If I have to call the CEO, I will do it. But there's no expectation. Like there's no expectation. Like I can only do so much to get it done, and it will at some point get done. But I'm not gonna just like, yeah. You get where I'm going.
Yeah, 100%. So how did that experience? So you go to this 10-day silence retreat, which, I mean, especially as a Virgo and as someone whose mind is active, I mean, that must have built some resilience as well on top of the resilience you built from sport.
It was a great combo, between sport and that. Like I got back to Dubai and I was like,
yeah, what happened?
It was funny because the first week I immediately came back, right? After, I think I did 3 days in a hotel just to like acclimatize to the Western world again.
Was that difficult?
In Nepal? No. I didn't want to speak though. I had zero urge to talk because I also realized I'm like, we say so much shit for no reason, like we talk so much, but like 90% of it doesn't need to be said. So when I came back to the office at Nike, people were like, "You're so quiet. Like, why are you not?" And I'm like, "Just don't mind me. I'm just here. I'm doing my business." But then I started paying attention to all this stuff that's being said, all the meetings that we would have, and I'm like, "This is such a waste of time." I think I was at Nike for another year or so. But
did you know when you come back from that retreat that you were on borrowed time with Nike with?
No, not at all.
No, when did that happen?
Not at all. I don't know. I definitely evolved, mentally, and started prioritizing different things. So the biggest thing for me was I stopped partying as much, right? Like I didn't go out as much because I was like, I don't value that anymore. Like,
was that just after that retreat or
directly after?
Wow, That's insane.
Yeah.
Was there a
after.
certain meditation? Was there a certain question that made you think?
No, I think it was the collective experience that like helped me reprioritize what's important in life. Right. I started looking at impact, particularly impact. Like, what kind of impact do you want to have on the world? And it doesn't have to be, you know, charity. Or it can just be like your community. It can just be like, what do you want to be viewed as a person? Do you want to be looked at as the guy that parties 4 or 5 times a week, you know, gets drunk and shows up to the office hungover? And, you know, do you want to be that guy? No, that's not the answer. Going back to your future self, right? Like, if you look back 85 and this is the way you lived your life, is that something you're proud of? No. You want to be a pillar within your community. How do you become a pillar within your community, right? Then the focus towards fitness started again. The focus towards spirituality. So I still meditated every day. The focus towards business started again, like excelling at things that I started. So all these things I think kind of came together. But I was at Nike for 1 more year. Then I went to Porsche Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
I was the head of events there, also for about a year. Wanted to just change the environment up a bit. And that's what, after that, I became an entrepreneur, started my own businesses.
And what was the first business? What was the first moment, and how did it scare you at all? Did to take that first plunge into entrepreneurship? I mean, what age were you at that point?
I was 28.
Yeah, so it's young.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, it didn't really scare me because I had 2 partners. So the 2 partners came to me and said, "We want to start a business with you." I won't go into much detail about what the business is, but effectively it was like working with some of the best football players and football clubs in the world, providing them with commercial opportunities. And we had a little bit of funding. So at least the first like 6 months or so, I was like, cool, like we have 6 months to start making real cash. And for the first 6 months, at least, like financially, we're not in a spot where, you know, it's too vulnerable, which is so important for an entrepreneur, right? Like having a bit of cushion. So I think the jump for me was quite easy. Luckily, I mean, not a lot of people are in a position like that, right? Like, usually when you start a business, you start from scratch, and like you don't have backup funding unless you're getting funded. So it was quite weird to leave a 9-to-5 job, because that's kind of all I knew at that point, right? Like Nike and Porsche both corporate. You go to an office, you dress a certain way, and now it was like I'm completely in charge of my own schedule, my own time, how much work I put in. And in the beginning, it was a little bit difficult. No one telling you what to do, right? Like, you have to now do it, and if you don't do it, you don't make money. So I think that shift was probably a little bit tough for me.
Is there anything you think, you know, as an entrepreneur that how can I say this? Help you stay on point, help you keep focused on what you want. What are the core values that you stand by within any business you set up? What is the reason for what would be the reason for you starting a business, and how important for entrepreneurs listening to this, or even aspiring entrepreneurs listening to this? How did you start? Like, what's sort of, yeah, I want to make money. Like, I think we all established.
Yeah.
Anyone listening to this, we want to make money because you know the consequences are for my family. I want nice experiences, whatever that looks like to you. But yeah, how do you go about like setting up a business? What do you look at first?
Yeah, so and the business we set up most recently, like, I particularly did this exercise. I think it was 4 questions. Question 1 was, what am I passionate about? Question 2 is, what am I good at? Question 3 is, can this make money? Right? Like, and question 4 is kind of like, where's the gap in the market? Like, is there a need for this business, and can it be impactful in whichever shape or form? Because I feel like if any of those 4 are missing, the longevity of the business might get impacted. For me, like, providing value in some shape or form is very important. That in turn drives passion. And then if there's a gap in the market that you're solving, then you automatically start making money out of it too. So that's kind of where I'm looking at it, which were kind of the 4 questions that I've asked myself. And those have typically served me quite well. I think if you look at those 4 things, at least at the start of it, when you're setting up your business, those are the things that worked quite well.
And then how important is all the personal development work that you've done all these health challenges that you've done, which we'll come on to in a second.
Yeah.
How important are they in supporting your
Extreme. I'll give you the best possible
goals
example.
as a business owner?
I'll give you the best possible example. And I recently discovered this about myself. So I believe in discomfort, right? I believe in embracing discomfort.
Why? Where did that first come from?
It definitely came from sport.
Any pivotal moment? And I know you pick holes on me when I ask you this question, but
yeah.
always there's always a moment, a couple of moments that just shape how you think, and I'm sure you had lots of time to digest this when you did the silent retreat. But were there any real pivotal moments where you thought, I absolutely fucking love discomfort?
Yeah, it was when I started training for runs. So I started running at the age of 24, and not very seriously. Like initially it was like a few 10Ks and stuff, but then I think at 25, before the silent retreat, I ran my first marathon. And one of the things that happened, it was like a 6-month training journey. One of the things that started happening was I had to run, Saturday mornings in Dubai in the heat, start at 5 a.m., 30K, like brutal runs. And I would wake up and I'd be like, you have the option to go back to sleep, or you have the option to do this run. If you don't do this run, you are so much further removed from reaching your goal of running 42 kilometers, right? So like doing this piece of uncomfortable work is going to get you closer. It's going to make you 1% of a better runner, and it's going to help you achieve your goal. And that then started translating into everything in life, right? If you choose to do something or not to do something, choosing the uncomfortable way, obviously within reason, choosing the uncomfortable way will get you closer to your goal of making your business successful, making your relationship successful, making, achieving your fitness goal, etc. That was kind of that point where I realized the effect it would have. And then recently I started thinking about this. Like, you push yourself physically, whether it's in the gym, whether it's on the track, whether it's in ice or heat or whatever it is. You choose to be uncomfortable. You choose to do uncomfortable things. Now, how does that translate into business? One of the main things that I realized is I'm okay doing hard things, right? When you wake up in the morning, you have a to-do list of 10 things. You have those 2 critical tasks, which are uncomfortable, which are going to take a lot of time, which are an uncomfortable phone call that you need to make or whatever else it is. When you train your mind in other areas of your life to be uncomfortable, that doesn't phase you anymore. You do that shit first thing in the morning, right? If you need to fire someone, you do it, right? You don't delay it to the next day. You don't delay it to the next day. You don't delay it to the next day. Because I think that's something that a lot of people struggle with, right? It's constantly delaying getting fit. It's constantly delaying eating healthy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So this is one thing that really helped me recently kind of put things into perspective on why to do this uncomfortable stuff, right? Like, what is it that makes a difference? And this is kind of where I've landed.
So what you're doing there, you're stacking the value and the benefits of doing that uncomfortable thing. So it's not just about doing that 100-kilometer run, which we'll come on to in a second, or doing that ice bath for 10 minutes. Just for that one behavior, it's who is this helping me become, and how is this going to help me in the other areas of life that are important to me?
Exactly. And like, I never thought about it that way until I realized, like, when I was training for the 100K, which was like a year training, everything else started falling into place. And I was wondering why is it that when I'm training my ass off, my business is doing well?
Yeah. Why? Because sorry, I'm so passionate about this. And obviously it's something we continually reinforce to all of our clients. It's never just about the body.
Yeah.
6-pack's not important if you don't understand or have control of the habits and who you're becoming as a result of gaining that 6-pack. But like, just tell the listeners who don't know what you did, whether they're watching or listening, like this 100-kilometer run that you did. It was only a few months ago, right?
Yeah, it was end of March. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So what was that? 100 kilometers. How many times did you get to stop?
No, I mean, no stopping.
There was no stopping.
No,
right?
no. It was one race. It happened in Chianti in Italy, so the Tuscan hills. 95% was uphill, downhill. It took us not 20 hours to complete. It was brutal. It was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life, for sure. My friend and I did it together. It was about 12 months of training. heavy focus on strength, on obviously endurance, on recovery, on diet, on the whole 9 yards. Everything that like an athlete would do is kind of what we focused on
whilst running a business.
Whilst running and starting a new business. Yeah.
As you do.
and obviously the podcast and whatever else. But it just like that whole training, and we'll get into the exact 100K run, but like that whole training program kept me so focused, and it just helped me push through any difficulty that was happening within business, right? Like if you need to go a little bit longer during a day to complete that task, often it's very hard to say, oh, we'll do it tomorrow.
Okay.
Right? Now it's like, nope, you're going to do it today. You don't have time tomorrow. You're going to do it today. You're going to get it done.
Yeah. So you don't renegotiate what you need to do.
There's zero negotiation.
But you're saying that resilience was built up as a result of taking that physical threshold and that mental threshold with your day, with that training in pursuit of that 100 kilometers.
Exactly. So everything became a non-negotiable. Like every promise I made myself, I was going to keep. Because I think like we always break promises with ourselves every day, right? Like whether it's waking up, whether it's a workout, whether it's eating healthy, whatever it is, like we say we're going to do something, we don't do it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to turn into the guy that whatever I say I'm going to do, whether it's external or internal, there's no negotiation. I'm going to do it. And
because this is a subject close to my heart about following through and what you said you would do. What has that done to your confidence levels?
Skyrocketed. Feel limitless. You feel limitless. Like especially when I finished the 100K, I'm like, I am completely untouchable, right? Like it's almost like a cocky sort of feeling, and I don't voice it. Like I'm not.
No, you're not that person.
I'm
Stefan,
not that person.
You know?
But internally, you're just like savage mode, you know.
And to elaborate on that, people may see people like you or me so confident, but as I continually say to clients and anyone I'm trying to make an impact with, what's just as important with your confidence is how your internal confidence is. You can present, on the front end, we can all put on a show, put on our best suit, stroll into work and be that leader, be that CEO. And it's exhausting if your internal confidence and emotional control is on a different level.
Well, there's an insecurity,
100%.
Yeah, so I definitely, this is definitely a confidence builder, right? And I think just having this like stack of evidence behind you of like, I can do this. Like I can start a business. I can run an ultra. Like I've done it before. Like why can't I do it again? Or why can't I continue on that path? Or why can't I do bigger things now? I think that's an important, lesson from that experience.
Yeah. When with the 100 kilometers, when did you first decide, right, I'm going to randomly run 100 kilometers? Because you don't just decide to do that, right? Or maybe you did.
It's always been in the back of my head. So like when I did my first marathon, my coach at the time was running 100K. And I looked at him like he was an alien, right? Like I was like, you are sick in the head for doing this.
How many miles is that exactly?
Probably 70. I don't know. 60, 70. I'm not really sure.
Yeah, it's
times 1.6.
Yeah,
miles times 1.6. Probably around 70 miles.
It's at least 3 marathons.
It's 2.5 marathons, basically. Yeah. It's 2.5 marathons. So he was running it at the time, and that was like 5 years before I did it. And I was like, there's something wrong with you to want to do this. And he was waking up at 4 a.m. on Saturday and like going for runs, and like, you know, his life was very much focused on that and then his family. And it kind of planted a seed, I think, subconsciously for me, that eventually came to fruition, where I was like, okay, now is the time to do it, right?
Yeah.
I'm married, but like I don't have kids. I have time on the weekends. I love to train. I love to run.
Yeah.
But like I don't just want to do a marathon. Like I wanted to do something bigger. So my friends were like, okay, cool, do like a 60 or 70. I'm like, no.
Let me as a fellow Virgo, that 100's a nice clean
round
number.
Yeah.
If any Virgos listen to this, you'll know. that 60 is not quite the same as 100.
We needed 3 digits.
Even like 73, it's just not the same. Even 107, it's just.
I needed 3 digits as well.
Yes.
You know, so I registered for this run, and started training for it a year in advance. And mind you, like a year before that, I was like a 10K felt pretty tough for me at that point. Like when I started training, a 10K was not easy. I definitely wasn't as strong as I was when I finished the run. And I knew that the person I had to become to finish that race wasn't the person I was when I started training, right? And that's what I love about long-term goals. You have to completely transform in order to reach like what you're trying to achieve. You like if I told you today, oh, I'm gonna run 500K, there's no way I can do it. But maybe 2 years from now, if I train for it, then I'll be that person.
And there has to be a shift in identity to make that happen.
Exactly. Shift in everything, right? Like shift in identity. You become a different, I hate, people might take this the wrong way, but you have to become a different person, right? Your personality is going to shift. You're actually going to be very different to who you are today. And I was excited for that journey, right? Because I knew that like I had to be disciplined, sacrifice. I had to watch what I eat. I had to train a lot. I had to recover a lot. Like the whole lifestyle had to shift.
I've got a question. I know you're not a client, but this is important. What do you think was the one area of the inputs to create that outcome goal of hitting 100 kilometers? What was the one area you had to up your game most?
I had to
up your game most. Was it nutrition? Was it mindset? Was it training? Was it recovery? Was it belief, preparation?
Yeah, it was time management.
Okay.
It was time management.
So what did you do?
Like you can envision that if you're whoever's listening who runs a business, like running a business is not a 9 to 5, right? It's not like set hours throughout the day where, you know, you can choose to work or not work or whatever. But like I had to combine a very intense training schedule with a very intense work schedule, and then add family, add wife into that equation, and like finding a way to make time for all of it. And one of the ways I did it was one, being extremely transparent with my communication with the people that I loved, right? Like my friends, I said, listen, guys, I might not see you for the next year, you know, I might see you once, twice for a coffee or whatever, but like, please respect what I'm about to tell you and what I'm about to do. Mm-hmm. My wife, obviously we lived together. So like, and she was actually running a marathon the same day I did 100. So she, her and I trained together most of the time. My family as well, like all these conversations you just need to have. And then business wise, yeah, I just started plugging in slots, the pre-planning of it. And it's something I learned at your seminar a few months ago.
The Dubai event, yeah.
The Dubai event,
great to have you there.
was how to effectively organize your time, right? How to effectively plan in advance and like make it non-negotiable, right? So I would schedule every 30 minutes of my day, where I was like between 10 and 10:30 email Kirk, between 10:30 and 11:30 eat and do this, and then 12 till 2 train. So like all of this stuff was like super lined up and super crisp, and it worked. Yeah. I think the time management and planning was the biggest challenge, but now also the biggest blessing, because what it taught me during that process is has reaped its benefits till today.
Yeah. How many people do you think, from your experience in business and all the connections that you have, struggle with that? Because we look, me and our team, we're doing audits frequently on the clients we have, and why is it some people's success even more than others, or some people progress quicker than others? Why is it some people can be really, really successful and be in peak shape and be a good parent, good partner? And this is nothing, judgmental on people who aren't quite there yet, because, I've been in an absolute car crash in the past. But from your experience, what the characteristic traits have you noticed of why people, especially, think about here in Dubai, right? It's full of entrepreneurs, full of successful people. But you look at the body shape, you look at the demeanor of some people, and they're permanently stressed, irrelevant of your bank balance. That's if you look like a sack of shit and you look inflamed. What's the point? What would you think are the traits that are different in people who are, for me, a real representation of high performers from those who have the potential or say they want to be a high performer, but their actions?
Yeah. I think the first thing that we need to address is being an entrepreneur is not just business. Like, it's a 360 thing. You need to be fit. You need to be in shape. You need to have your mind. Like, you need to have the mindset. Business goes hand in hand with all of that. But I think the two things for me would be intention. Like, I think your intentions need to be clear, meaning like your goals need to be laid out. What do you want to achieve? When do you want to achieve it? What is your plan for the year, for the week, for the day, for the next 3 years, whatever it may be? And then the second thing is the discipline to follow through, right? Like, you can say you're going to do something, but like do it. Like, I don't know what people are waiting for, right? Like have the discipline to follow through. Like
Why do you think some people don't have discipline?
it's hard. Like that's right. It's difficult. Like it's if your alarm goes off at 5 o'clock in the morning, how many of those people snooze? How many people those people cancel whatever they're about to do? Like a lot of people. The same with business, right? If starting a business and growing it is easy, then everyone would do it, but it's extremely difficult. And the discipline and then the follow through and sticking with it even when times get hard, that's what sets people apart.
Yeah. And tell me more about that tattoo of yours on the arm.
Uncommon.
Uncommon. Where did this first come from? Because for someone to have a word on their body, that's a big deal.
So first it was a reminder, because I got this before the 100K. It was a reminder, and I put it here specifically so it's for everyone listening who can't see me, it's on my forearm, that when I'm running and things get difficult, which they very often did in training and in the run itself, I would look at the arm and say, you're different than everyone else. You're not the same. You're uncommon, and only uncommon people can do this. So fucking keep going, you know, like, so that was the reason for it here. And it kind of started transitioning into most things in life. Like now when I trained this morning and our coach was like, okay, cool. You know, 3 sets of 20. I'm like, I'm going to do 4 sets of 30, you know, like it's the whole mindset shifts. Like I'm going the extra mile in everything that I'm doing now. So that was one thing. And then the second thing is we named our business Uncommon. So the business that we founded 7 months ago is now, that's the name of it. And the reason behind it is we want to do things differently than everyone else.
And what is that business? What is the Uncommon?
Effectively, we help other businesses create communities around their brands through brand activations, through content, through finding them brand ambassadors. So we work with a lot of, one is we work with a lot of existing businesses here within specifically Dubai, but also within the UAE. Secondly, we create our own IPs that are focused on community building. And so these are kind of the 2 things that we're working on. And thankfully, you know, alhamdulillah, things are going quite well. It's been a lot of fun running this new business, specifically focused on, you know, Dubai, because it's our home.
Yeah.
So
yeah. You know, one big takeaway that has just come to me, you just explaining how important that word is to you. The importance of setting reminders about who you are at your best and who you need to be to get you to where you want to be. And again, I remember learning this on a Brendan Bashard thing, and I've said this on previous podcasts as a guest. He has a question of what 3 words have made you successful? What 3 words will continue to make you successful? Or what 3 words describe you at your best? You know, what 3 words describe your best as when you're in interactions? But more so, I see that word that you've got in your forearm as, if you're only allowed to choose one word to sort of motivate you and remind you of that driving force.
100%. What's your word?
I at the minute,
or which words?
Yeah. It's funny. This is maybe where we're very similar. World-class, consistent standards. But there's also a word that I put out to my community this year. And it was a bit of a challenge because I said, irrelevant what you did last year, even like the Built to Last high performers that we give trophies to, no one gives a fuck what you did last year.
Yeah.
It's done.
Yeah.
Great. Celebrate your wins. You move on. All the greatest athletes, sports stars, personal development people on this planet that we look up to, and for the people that are no longer here that we refer back to, they didn't just do things once, they do it over and over again. And I put down a challenge to our community. I said, make this the year you are a fucking savage.
Yeah.
And I know you were at the, do you remember at the Dubai event?
Yeah.
And I did the BTL Savage, what does it take? And we did this is what they do and this is what they don't do. Even though those 3 words, world-class, consistent standards, I remind myself most mornings when I look in the mirror, who do I need to be? The word savage this year. I mean, words change, don't they?
Yeah.
But for me, the word's savage. It's just...
I've used that word a lot this year.
Yeah, I've seen it in your social media posts.
Yeah.
And it's not like we've discussed this. So it's... And look, the word savage, if you're listening to this, some people might think, it's a bit heavy. That's okay. But have a word in your back pocket or somewhere you can see it frequently throughout the day that's going to remind you of who you need to be.
And push you.
Yeah, and as Stefan said so many times on this podcast, like make you follow through and keep your promises to yourself. Because one of the big takeaways from today with Stefan is when you follow through on what you said you would do, stretch yourself. That is where the true confidence comes from internally.
I couldn't agree more.
It's the most powerful thing. If you want to become and genuinely be, not say you are, but be a confident person, keep your promises to yourself, do what you said you would do, then reinforce that as part of your identity, repeat it over and over and over again.
Yeah. My second word here is going to be relentless.
So that's a word I've used. My WhatsApp, I didn't even notice, Stefan. Maybe we're both Virgos. We've known each other a few months. But even on my WhatsApp, my word I've got on my image is relentless.
Relentless. Right? I mean, but that's kind of like summarizing what you said.
Yeah.
I think a person who follows through and does what they say they're going to do and don't really and they don't take no for an answer. Like you do it until the job is done. Is someone who's relentless, right? You can take the word similar to savage in a very negative form because like you can certainly look at it that way.
It's the meaning you place on it.
Yeah, but it's just perception.
Yeah, 100%. So, what's the driving force moving forward then?
So, like we've already set our new challenge physically. We're going to be running the 7 Emirates, 7 ultra marathons in 7 days. So 50 kilometers a day for 7 days.
Where is that? Sorry.
Here.
Okay.
So the 7 Emirates of Dubai.
What months of the year? Because
February.
It's pretty hot.
We'll do it in Feb.
Even in February, it's not exactly cold here.
And it's also a hit or miss, right? Like it might be like in the middle of a heat wave, but we'll start early enough.
And what is that exactly?
So we're organizing ourselves.
Okay.
So 7 Emirates, 7 days, 7 times 50 kilometers.
Shit.
Yeah, so 350 over the 7. And we'll do that in Feb. We started training for it. There's about 6-7 of us who are doing it. So that's gonna be a lot of fun. It's nice to do it because it's with the community this time around, right? Like the 100K was quite a lonely journey, I suppose, because it was a lot of myself just running in the mountains. But this time around, we'll have a charity angle to it. We're gonna create a lot of content. We have a really fun community. We have great coaches and a lot of partners within Dubai that are willing to support. So that's going to be good. And just again going back to relentless, just being relentless with the business this year. Like I told you before we started recording, a lot of people are going to be traveling, going on holidays, taking time off. Like I'm spending the next 2 months in the lab, basically, working out super hard, working super hard, and basically getting ready for, let's call it the season, right? It's like September onwards in Dubai, and just being ready for that.
Share with the listeners the challenge that you're doing today, because this might be a good thing for some people to do who are feeling a little bit sticky or just want to test themselves. Or is it 75 days?
So it's called 75 Hard. And you can Google it because I think it's an official thing. Like you can download the app and there's like a podcast behind it explaining how to do it. But effectively it's 2 workouts a day. One of the workouts has to be outdoor. You have to drink a gallon of water a day. So that's 3.8 liters, 10 pages of non-fictional reading, and no junk food, no alcohol, no sugar, and basically sticking to like a meal plan, predetermined meal plan, whatever that may be. And you take progress pictures every day as well.
Every day,
yeah. So every morning you wake up, mirror, picture. And if you miss any of those things, you start from scratch.
Shit.
Yeah.
Literally.
You start from day one again.
Okay.
So it's a super intense, and 75 days, 2.5 months, right? So it's not like a 10-day challenge or a 30-day challenge. 2.5 months is a long time. Yeah. And we're on like day 21 now, day 22. And I'll be honest, it's very difficult. Like it's the 2 workouts a day, because it's 7 days, right? Like it's not like there's a day off or a break or whatever else it is. So whenever you're feeling a little sick or you're feeling a little tired or like you've had a long day, and you still have to get the workout in. You still have to read, you still have to do X, Y, and Z. So it's been a great way for me to kind of reset.
Another takeaway from that though, and I really respectfully your time, Stefan, so we'll come to a close now. Doing this and doing the training for your 100 kilometers and some of these things you're thrown into, it's amazing how much more effective you can be with your time.
Oh my God.
Because a lot of people, I haven't got the time. Yeah. So many people, if they were to look at their phone usage, their social media usage, it'd be hours.
Yeah.
Hours, right? Because some people might listen to this going, oh God, this guy, all he does is train. Or they might listen to my previous podcast, God, Kurt trains 6 days a week.
Yeah.
Have a look at your phone and tell me you don't have time to train.
And what's 2 times 45 minutes, right? Like most of the people here, at least, like have a gym in their building and you can go walk outside or you can go for a run. Like, there you go.
All you need is space and air.
There's always these like imaginary barriers that people like put up where it's like, oh, but I have to drive here. No, I'm like, you don't have to do any of that stuff. Like, you can go outside right now and go for a run, or you can go outside and do 1,000 squats, right? Like, there's nothing that's stopping you from doing that.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing. The second thing, just to your point, there's the time thing. A lot of people ask me like, oh, like your energy levels and all this kind of stuff. I'm like, I have much more energy than most people because I work out every day, right? Because I drink a gallon of water every day. Like, these are all things that aid to your energy. Yeah, the first 2 weeks suck, but then after that, you'll see like how you transform, right?
100%. I think what it is, so many people just expect that immediate gratification, that immediate outcome. And unfortunately, there's so much bullshit on social media
that support that.
Yeah, and promising this dream, that clickbait title, that
weight loss pill,
100%, that magic lead magnet to suck people in. It's fucking bullshit.
That's why and that's why I'm a big fan of long-term goals, and announcing them, right? Like, I announce everything I do. Like, now I'm doing this meditation challenge in parallel to the 75 hard. I'm doing 30 minutes of meditations until 75 hard finish. I'll put it out there, right? It's like an accountability thing.
Yeah.
75 hard, 2.5 months, right? Now the next challenge, 8 months away. There's no shortcut. Like, you have to do the work in order to finish it. Like, a run is the best example, because if you run a marathon or an ultra marathon, there's no hiding, there's no cheating. Like,
you either did it or you didn't.
You either did it or you didn't.
Yeah. It's funny because my last podcast was all about why accountability is so important. And there's different aspects of accountability. But one of the things I admire about you is you are literally putting it out there to your social media following, every single person who listens to your podcast, also to your team, your partner, maybe even clients who they look at you in a different way. If you say,
you know what's crazy? We got a job. We got a project because I'm an endurance runner. Wow. Because they were like,
why do you think that is? Because I think this is gold, maybe to wrap us up, Stefan, because
they were like, listen, we know what type of person you are. Because the guy was an ultra endurance runner himself. He was like, I know you're going to deliver on time. I know you're going to put in the work. I know that we can count on you. I know that you're disciplined. I know you're not going to fuck around. And I was like, all those things are 100% true, right? So that's why all these little transformations in your life, you'll be surprised how other parts of your life start changing as a result. That's just do hard shit.
Yeah. So as a takeaway message to maybe some entrepreneurs listening to this who aren't where they want to be physically, mentally, what would be your message to those, especially with that prime example of just by you doing what you were doing, the opportunities that led to because people trusted you?
Yeah, I think trust is another thing. Yeah. True. Obviously, you need to have a track record and you need to be able.
But like, you need to do the job.
If it's between you and someone else, you're going to get it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, I'll leave people with that.
Amazing. Where can people find you, Stefan? Because I know you got your podcast yourself, any websites, social media handles. Where can people find out?
Stefan runs DXB on Instagram. The podcast is called The Forever Student. You can find it on pretty much any platform. And we.the.uncommon is our business account that we just started on Instagram. So you can find more about the business there as well.
100%. Stefan, time has flew.
Yeah, as always.
As I never doubted. But so much value there from personal development, the mindset, that some of the training, the business advice too. Thank you so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Guys, please check Stefan out. He really is a savage, and we'll definitely be doing some more together soon. So thank you so much.
I appreciate your time,
guys.
my friend.
I'll see you next time.